So, we are back to discuss some Mandalorian this time. No, it's not the Witcher podcast. Swear to God, if you guys keep bothering me about that, I'm gonna stab somebody. I swear to God, we'll get to it. We'll get to Witcher podcast, I promise. But first, Mandalorian and season two's teaser trailer, or I think the full trailer, just came out. Preston, what are your initial thoughts on it? Because before we started this, you were chuckling.
I was chuckling because there were a few things that we laughed at the end of the first season that they decided to double down on in the trailer. So I was chuckling.
I didn't notice anything, but
Oh, well, this time, if you remember, his order talks about some ancient unknown group called the Jedi. And here they're like, our histories talk about a battle between, the Mandalorians and the Jedi. And he's like, the Jedi, like, like they were honestly ruling the galaxy like 23 years ago. Like, you should really know who the Jedi are. Like, they also like are a huge integrated piece of your history. Like if I said to you, like, there's this ancient band called the Smashing Pumpkins. Like, you'd be like, what are you fucking talking about? I've heard of the fucking Smashing Pumpkins. They're big. It's actually even bigger than that. Like, they ruled the goddamn galaxy. The Jedi Council ruled the galaxy like 23 years ago. Like, it's...
I wouldn't say they rule the galaxy, but...
What? I mean, they were the heads of the New Republic and all of that crap. I mean, I
kinda. They were the head. They're generals.
They were the head of the security agency or whatever, But nonetheless, like you should know about Jedi's.
Someone also said this on Twitter, and the way I see it is, the Jedi were kind of like the CIA or the FBI. Like someone in, I don't know, Zimbabwe has probably heard of the FBI or CIA. They've most likely never encountered them.
Do you think that so I'm gonna do a quick little history of Star Wars, right? Okay. The Galactic Republic lasts 1,000 years, and the head of security, who has this incredibly important part, are the Jedi Council.
Keepers of the Peace.
Keepers of the Peace, right? Then they're overthrown by an emperor who has the same powers as the Jedi. They call themselves different things, but he's still, a dark Jedi. Then he's overthrown by a rebellion led by a brother and sister who are Jedis.
Yeah, I don't think that's public knowledge.
Doesn't it affect every planet in the whole goddamn galaxy?
It's a galaxy of like trillions of people. The odds of someone meeting a Jedi who numbered in like the thousands, I don't know, man. I think that's why everybody's like, oh, sorcerers. I think that's where that comes from.
Fine. God.
So Mandalorian trailer.
Okay. Fine. It's so stupid. Okay, continue.
So Mandalorian trailer. We start off where his ship, the Razor Crest, is in bad condition, somewhat floating towards a planet. So one thing I noticed about this really close up shot of the Razor Crest, I'm sure it's been compared already before. It really reminds me of the Serenity from Firefly. I never noticed that.
Yeah, it kind of does. Just that gritty thruster in the back kind of look. And maybe if someone actually showed me the models of both of them, they'd be very different. But it's how the crafts are viewed and the camera angles that they choose is very similar. You're absolutely correct.
And we also get a voiceover during the trailer of the armorer, the person who was piecing Mando's armor throughout the entirety of season 1, that he needs to go on this quest, this RPG quest, because of course that was our number one thing about this show.
Yeah.
It was an RPG quest. He needs to go on this new quest to reunite this child with its people. So basically he needs to find some Force-sensitive people or Jedi
Yes.
To reunite Baby Yoda with. Now this is
And what's his reasoning for doing it?
That it's the way?
It's the way.
Well, this is post Endor, so everything
Yeah.
that's usually like, Sith and evil in the Force is kind of either gone or in hiding. But yeah, we get some shots of Tatooine because, of course, um, see, seeing Tatooine and the what are the
Tusken
Tusken
Raider on the
Raiders
Bantha, yeah.
on the Bantha. See, so for some reason that really bothered me because Red Letter Media continues being right about how it's almost impossible for Star Wars to do anything new without introducing like stormtroopers or AT-ATs or
Right. I mean,
Tatooine and
this is
everything.
their big criticism of Solo. Like, they predicted the Solo plot because all they did was, okay, let's take every throwaway line that they've ever had about Han Solo, and we're gonna now have the origin story of all of those things in one place. Now, as it turns out, Solo was somehow like the best Star Wars movie of the past of the past decade.
What? Really? No way.
Which Star Wars movie do you think is?
Of the decade? From 2010 to
Do you
2000
think
and
do you think Solo is better than Rise of Skywalker?
yeah, I would say so.
Do you
Yeah.
think Solo is better than Last Jedi?
Oh, yeah,
Do you
yeah.
think Solo is better than the what's the forgettable one that's
Rogue One or Force Awakens?
Rogue One? Rogue One.
I actually like Rogue One a bit better than Solo.
Okay, and then would you think? Do you think it's better than Force Awakens?
No, I think Force Awakens a bit better. I actually didn't
See,
mind Force
I would put it
Awakens.
above. I would put it above Force Awakens. I mean, I guess I didn't have a problem with Rogue One when I saw it. It's just kind of forgettable because the characters are so forgettable. But it as itself is not a bad movie. It's just, I'd say the big weakness of Rogue One is that it lacks a memorable protagonist that you can root for and relate to. And considering it didn't have that, it's a pretty solid movie, which is a huge weakness, right? But for the most part, yeah, Rogue One it was fine. I thought Solo was fine as well. I mean, it's funny that this movie that everybody trashes, the production of and had so much trouble, coming out, turns out in the grand scheme to not be that bad. And, the big criticism is that, they had to include the Kessel Run and they had to include like every random throwaway line that Han Solo said. And so it's the same thing. Like they just have to keep throwing in there the known, stuff for us to see.
It's your criticism of Fire and Blood, how you said like Fire and Blood seems like a checklist of things George has to put in there.
Has to put in there.
That's what
yeah.
it seems like this is, Kessel Run, he has to meet Lando. What about the blaster? A mentor who does the same thing he does in A New Hope, where he shoots the. He has to put that in there. My problem with Solo is that it's a movie nobody asked for. I don't need Han Solo's backstory. I think that diminishes the mythos of Han Solo. If anything, like an Obi-Wan on Tatooine, like maybe like a 30-minute short film would be cool. Or I don't know, like something.
The thing is, just because somebody asks for something doesn't mean it can't be good. Like I want to say like, Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey wasn't really asked for, and yet it was great. It was just as good as Excellent Adventure. Or like
That's the
Cobra
newest one, right?
Kai. No, the newest one I haven't seen, but I'm sure I heard it's okay. The Cobra Kai series, nobody asked for that, and it's pretty good. Like certain things aren't asked for, and then they turn out okay. And then certain things are asked for and demanded, and then they turn out horribly. So I don't know. I mean, Solo, like I said, it was fine. It was fine. It was forgettable. That was the thing. I mean, that's the weird thing, right? Is when in this era of like so much media, so much good media, so much bad media, the pretty good media gets really forgotten. You forget about pretty good shows.
That is true.
If something doesn't suck and like is memorable because it sucks and is a disaster, like we all fucking have seen and know like Suicide Squad because it's like such a disaster of a movie. Or like fan four stick, Fantastic Four, redone with, Dark, like that was so horrible that everybody keeps talking about it. Um, when something's like pretty good, it's just forgotten, it's just gone, you know. And so I don't know. So
No,
that's
you're right. You're right. But to Mando, back to Mando.
yeah, yeah. It's game of tangents. Okay, back
So
to Mando.
we also see the Razor Crest flying towards some kind of frozen planet. It looks like Ilum, from what everyone keeps
Mm.
telling me, and
Yeah, yeah.
it's
Put a arrow in your thumbnail. Be like, look what you missed. Yeah.
So Ilum, for those of you who don't know, is where Jedi go to kind of get their kyber crystals, the crystals that power their lightsabers. So Mando may be visiting a very known force-sensitive location. Now, during
Mm.
the rule of the Empire, Ilum was actually occupied by the Empire, but the Mandalorian has taken place post Return of the Jedi. So Empire's kind of
Do,
on the run in a sense.
yeah, I mean, how do you feel about like force sensitive locations? Um,
It depends on how you do them. Like, for example, in the original Thrawn trilogy, it wasn't really a force-sensitive location, but it was kind of tied to the Force in a sense. You had the planet Mycure, which was
mm,
scrubbed from the Jedi archives and like most known hyperspace maps because the the reptiles on that planet, the Ysalamiri, have the ability to repel the Force. So
right.
if you have like a Ysalamiri next to you and some Force user tries to use the Force on you, it's not going to work.
Yeah, and that's why I bring it up because the Thrawn trilogy treated the Force so sci-fi-ish rather than sci-fantasy-ish, Like I remember them talking about how Yoda was able to hide because on his planet some dark Jedi had died in that cave. And therefore the dark side and the light side of the Force like canceled out and made him invisible. And you're like, oh God, like this is so it's so like 1960s bad sci-fi like explanation of of the Force.
But isn't that kind of what happened in Last Jedi? Kinda, not really. Wasn't there like a dark hole on that island because some dark Jedi guy died on that spot? So
You are right, and there is no explanation ever given on why like Yoda's cave is like special. It's just kind of a place, right? The place that's dark in the Force or whatever. So I mean, I guess like if it's in the original trilogy, that cave is mysterious, then I guess there can be a whole planet that has like Force sensitivity one way or the other.
that cave is actually blown up in the Kylo Ren comic where it shows Snoke training Kylo. They go into the Dagobah cave and Kylo goes in there by himself and I guess his power is so great he blows it up
Oh.
and Snoke's like, "Oh my God, what's going on?" And he's like, "Don't worry, it's you won't ever need that cave again for another apprentice because there doesn't need to be another apprentice. I'm that strong." Rrr.
Oh, oh, huh.
So, yeah. Anyways, Mando. So, one of the things that I really liked about the trailer was that very rare in Star Wars do you see ships on water. And there's one point where Mando
Yeah,
goes to a port and we see him traversing on water over an ocean.
yeah. It is kind of funny because it's like when you get to the point where you have a spaceship that can go anywhere on the planet, you kind of forget about other forms of transportation. That people would be on a barge to get across a planet rather than getting in a spaceship and like, you know, zipping to the other side. Yeah.
To bring up Solo back for a minute here, everybody was like saying, well, the train sequence was really dumb because they can use spaceships. Well, not really. You could argue that there are some planets whose weather are so like intense that spaceships are really would be kind of like useless there, especially to transport cargo. It's not worth the maintenance. Trains are a bit
Well,
more bulkier and they can sustain the damage.
yeah, I mean, you could argue the same reason we don't use, helicopters to to transport our cargo. I mean, it's just, we're talking about resource efficiency, right? Like a train, we still use trains to transport a massive amount of cargo in America. And it's because it's much more efficient and cheaper than using helicopters or jets to fly all our cargo everywhere. So yeah, I mean, you can just argue that the train is there for energy efficiency and cost, or whatever.
In the next scene, we also see some X-Wings. They look like they're escorting the Razor Crest and then chasing it. The CGI looks better. One of my complaints with Mando Season 1 was there was that episode where Mando leaves the tracker in the space station and the X-Wings come in. The CGI there was a little shoddy, but here it looks better.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny because the Mando does have a pretty big budget, doesn't it?
Kinda.
Yeah, I mean, which is funny because they filmed the whole thing in front of a TV screen, right? To cut costs and make things, look better, right? It's not a green screen, but it's like, they have a 360 television set that like goes around them, and then they kind of film that way. Maybe they have more budget to do CGI and stuff like that.
I think their budget was mostly spent on practical effects and CGI on the ground rather than space combat, because this is not like a Empire versus Rebels thing where there's giant space battles. So they could have stretched out the spaceship CGI budget, which is okay, but it looks like it's improved here.
Yeah, I guess it didn't even occur to me that considering Star Wars is mostly about spaceships blowing each other up, that there's no spaceships blowing each other up in Mandalorian.
There was that one scene where he's getting chased by a bounty hunter, and then he fucks up the guy, but he has to make repairs.
Ah, I see. Yeah.
Which I feel like was most of Mandalorian, that he had to make repairs. Every episode, I felt like, every other episode, he had to make like some repair to either his armor or his ship.
Yeah, I mean, Mandalorian Season 1 was shockingly episodic in this world that of non-episodic television, right? Where he had like a weekly adventure to have, and there was some overarching plot, but it was largely episodic.
I find it funny because we have to mention Red Letter Media because they're kind of like the godfathers of criticizing Star Wars. They unsurprisingly liked it because they liked Mandalorian much more than I did. Right, and they're Star Trek fans. Star Trek is much more episodic, so it kind of makes sense that they like it. They would like an episodic show with maybe an overarching plot.
Well, I mean, I think they're kind of hypocritical in the sense that when they view Star Wars, they think Star Wars is old and stale. And so when something new and different comes out, like The Mandalorian, which is new and different, they find it refreshing. But with Star Trek, they believe Star Trek is defined by a very specific genre of episodic sci-fi, moral quandaries. And that if you deviate from that, it is no longer Star Trek. And so when they come across something new, they immediately hate it. Now,
so what you're saying is they're old grumpy men.
They are old grumpy men, and they're a bit hypocritical. Now, on top of this, though, the Star Trek has been pretty freaking horrible. So they have reasons to criticize it. But what they're looking for is Star Trek: The Next Generation to be redone, and they won't be happy unless they get Star Trek: The Next Generation redone in the exact same like structure, a TNG Voyager structure. They're not even big fans of Deep Space Nine or anything else. So so they're looking for something new. I don't know if I'm looking for something new with Star Wars. The thing about people that make their living like being movie reviewers is that they watch so many movies that they see the same tropes over and over and over and over again, and that when they see something a little bit new, I think they really like it, even when it's not necessarily that great. It's just that it's new. So they're like, oh my gosh, this is new. And so the Mandalorian, it's very different from the rest of Star Wars, but you have to ask, is that great? I don't know. I think something can be the same and great. It can be new and great, but I'm looking for something that's great.
We also have to be careful not to get overhyped as well, because I remember when we saw the trailer for the first season of Mando, it looked really cool, and then we came to it, and it's all right. Everybody thought it was the greatest thing since sliced bread. It's okay.
No, that's the problem. Well, Star Wars as a franchise is all about what they promise you with a Star Wars movie is the greatest fucking thing you've ever goddamn seen in your whole fucking life. Like that's what they advertise every time, right?
Yeah.
Like, this is going to be the biggest thing you've ever seen. And I will grant that even the original trilogy did that. Even the prequel trilogy, as bad as they are, were throwing onto the screen the biggest thing you've ever seen at that time. Like there hadn't been that level of CGI ever before, and so they were always throwing it in. And then the next movie, they're like, with Phantom Menace, it's more CGI than you've ever seen, and you're overwhelmed by it. The next one, it's like more lightsabers than you've ever seen in your life. And the third one, it's like more space battle and lightsaber battles than you could comprehend. And it's true that it's overwhelming. You're like, oh gosh, but at some point you can't keep delivering bigger and bigger. It's just impossible. And so Star Wars trailers, like, you're supposed to hype them, but The Mandalorian is kind of a sleepy, okay show. It doesn't really warrant hype,
For me, Mandalorian is exactly where we need to be. What I do like about it is the people behind Mandalorian. Jon Favreau, he has a bunch of these behind the scenes stuff where he discusses like Star Wars and how it's important. Him and Dave Filoni, who's behind the Star Wars cartoon stuff.
Yeah.
I like those guys behind Star Wars, and we'll get to that in a minute. Let me just finish out the trailer. We also get shots of Mando on a speeder bike, or some people are calling this not Mando, it's Boba Fett. If you zoom in really carefully, we'll see what happens. We get a return of Cara Dune, I think that was her name, and Grief Karga. We also get a return of the special TIE fighters that the wing folds. Nice speeder bike chase, so we'll get more of that as well with Scout Troopers. And we also get the ending scene here as Mando's going down the crowd. We see a Gamorrean guard boxing ring, which I thought was pretty chill. And we also see Mando talking to that one-eyed monster you would see at the cantina, and then he gets ambushed. But right before it cuts to black, he's about to use that little special wrist thing, and I thought it was cute that Baby Yoda closes his cradle.
Right, but then you're denied from seeing how he actually wins the fight.
Well, you have to watch the show, Preston. You have to watch the show.
Hopefully they'll show it. I actually think it's kind of I think it's getting to be cliche to like cut to black or hide a massive fight and then to come back and have the person like impossibly have defeated everybody without showing. But we'll see if they actually do that, if they're just hiding it for the trailer.
Well, to be fair, I think the reason Mando wins every fight ever was already shown. Is this that his armor, his Beskar armor, deflects like shots like a motherfucker. So.
And he's always got some little James Bondish, gadget that's gonna like save the day.
So I really do feel I like the trailer. I thought it was pretty cool. I'm trying to keep the hype down because that first episode of season 1 was awesome, and then episode 2, episode 2 is where he fights the Mudhorn. I think this is where Star Wars needs to be right now. These small little television shows on streaming services, or these short stories. I really think that's where it needs to be right now. Star Wars needs to take a break for a couple of years, which is a shame because we're getting another trilogy fairly soon. But I don't know. I would much rather talk about Mando and get things like Mando, more smaller Star Wars shows.
It is, it is interesting now that it has to be rebranded because as I said, it was unsustainable that you keep getting bigger and bigger and bigger. You know, like, oh, you have a space station the size of a small moon. Now you have a space station the size of a planet, and you're blowing up one planet at a time. Now we're blowing up 5 planets at a time, and now we've got ships that could blow up hundreds of planets at a time. You know, they keep having to get bigger and bigger and bigger, and it's unsustainable.
At first, I thought you were making a joke, and then I realized, no, that's the sequel trilogy. You're right. That's the fucking sequel. I thought you were making a joke. That's
no.
right.
You're like, no, they can't do that. No, yeah, and it just has to keep getting bigger and more badass. But it's unsustainable, so they have to tone it down. They have to bring it back. And I guess that's what the Mandalorian is trying to do. And yeah, if you reel in your expectations, you know, it's a fine show. But I don't think it like warrants, you know, the whole fanboy creaming your pants kind of thing.
Well, what I really liked about the Dark Empire comic was they kind of had their own super weapon on not every planet, but like the World Devastators are supposed to really fuck up the world that they're on, thus the name World Devastators. It's not Death Star-esque levels of insanity, but it's more realistic that the Empire would have these gigantic, like, mechanical floaty things on a planet that just suck up its resources and completely devastate the environment. That would make more sense as a real threat they need to take out. And deploying that on multiple planets, that seems like you know, more of a thing that needs to get done than Starkiller Base. Personal opinion.
What I thought was funny about Dark Empire specifically, because it also is, you know, escalates things quickly, right? Like, it needs to be bigger and bigger, and it's a huge story considering how short Dark Empire is, the original comic, you know? I mean, I remember, like, getting them looking at them when I was young. I don't think I ever bought them myself, but, you know, like, each one only has, like, 14, 15, you know, maybe 20 pages of story, and then it's done, and it's over. But, like, in it, you're bringing back Boba Fett. You're bringing back the Emperor. You're converting Luke to the dark side. You know, you're having like planet-destroying weapons. Like, you're like, oh my, this is all happening in one comic. Like, it was just so much.
And somehow they did it better than Last Jedi and Rise of Skywalker. Somehow.
Well, I mean, Rise of Skywalker was just they tried to fit in a lot in that too. A little too. I mean, I think it was just a drinking from the fire hose.
I was actually going to ask you this. Do you think that Rise of Skywalker should have gotten the Hunger Games and Harry Potter treatment where the last book was split up into 2 parts?
I think if the plot, I mean, I think you'd have a chance. If the Rise of Skywalker were 3 movies, you would have a chance to breathe and explore. You know, the Rise of Skywalker is so dense that it could probably be an entire like season of television.
Yeah.
You know, like just too much is in there.
That is
right?
true. I mean, I wouldn't mind going to see Star Wars Episode 10. Oh, I'm sorry. Star Wars Episode 9, Rise of Skywalker Part 1. It's like the Deathly Hallows Part 1 or the Hunger Games.
Yeah.
Fuck, what was that last film? Who fucking cares? You get my point.
I mean, one of my favorite video games growing up was Ultima 7 Part 2.
What was it? Ultimate 7?
Ultima 7
Ultima
Part 2.
7. Why does that sound familiar?
Oh, the Ultima series? It eventually transitioned to be Ultima Online.
I see it.
But Ultima was this very classic video game that
from '93.
Yeah, and I mean, different ones were bigger. I would say like Ultima 3 was a very revolutionary way back in the day in gaming, in computer gaming. It kind of changed everything. Everything is kind of based on the interface of Ultima 3, and a lot of the Ultimas just were really good. I mean, Ultima 4, 5, 6, 7 are really solid, and then it goes downhill from there. Ultima 8 and 9
doesn't always go downhill from there, unfortunately. Doesn't always.
Yeah. I mean, isn't that the case? Nothing ends well.
So, Mando, are we excited for it? We're covering it, of course, but
Yeah. I mean, I'm definitely excited, and I mean, I guess we should talk about Boba Fett, right? Like, is Boba Fett appearing? Is that just? It's just. It has to
so I
happen,
keep
right?
hearing conflicting rumors that there's a thing with Boba Fett where he like the clone of Django might not appear, but his armor will. Some asshole got his armor and he's wearing it
Hmm.
around and like some sheriff on Tatooine. I'm just kind of sick of seeing Tatooine. I don't want to see that. I don't,
I agree. I completely agree. Like, why does every Star Wars movie need to be on a desert planet? Like, can't we move away from the desert planets?
but to what though? The snow planets? I mean, we already have like 30 of those. Maybe an entire salt planet. I
I mean, I don't know. You could do anything. A savannah planet, like Marsh. I mean, I guess they've done swamp planet, they've done ice planet, but there's a whole bunch of different ecosystems that one can have. Like, you know, a planet where it's 1 foot of water. I don't know. Like,
I would just like that. That'd be kind of interesting. A planet that's more full
right?
all water. I was also going to ask you your opinion on the state of Star Wars now, because a lot of these Star Wars baity channels they love to get their views by trashing Kathleen Kennedy, who is the CEO of
Mm,
Lucas Arts and Lucasfilms and all that, and Star
yeah,
Wars in
yeah.
general. The state of Star Wars now, should she step down so we can get some new fresh blood in there? Maybe Jon Favreau, who's doing a good job with Mando, or Dave Filoni, who has been doing a good job with the Star Wars cartoons. Should she step down and let someone else take over?
Well, it's hard. It's hard for me to really judge whether Kathleen Kennedy like has done a good job or a bad job. I mean, some people would like instantly jump to the conclusion that she's done a horrible job because they didn't like the Last Jedi or something. But you kind of keep in mind like how many moving parts she is dealing with, and is she doing her job in bringing in money and making profit? And that's what her job
Hmm.
is, right? It's all about the money and the profit. They paid a massive amount of money to George Lucas for this series and this franchise, and she needs to get that money back, So I don't know. Like, I don't know if Jon Favreau. I mean, I guess he directed those Iron Man movies, so he's somewhat experienced with big with big budgets. He could probably handle a Star
Well,
Wars
judging by his
movie.
interviews, like he knows what he's talking about. You can tell he's a fan. He understands the underlying
Yeah,
themes.
sure. I mean, he pays a lot of reverence. He gives to Star Wars, which I think that's actually kind of important because I think about the Marvel Cinematic Universe and Kevin Feige and like how much of a nerd he is to the material. Like, he knows the comics inside and out and knows like the Marvel Cinematic Universe inside and out, and he knows like the differences between the two and which versions of each character and stuff like that. Um, and so I think it's easier with Star Wars. I mean, it's easier with Star Wars movies. It's you did the whole like reading all the books and the expanded universe kind of stuff, which is much harder.
I kind of for the new canon, I kind of gave up. Like it started to get really dumb. It started to get really dumb. It really did.
Yeah, so um, I don't know. Like they got to make money. They're doing the impossible, right? They got to market it to kids in order to get toys, but they've got to like also market it to fanboys at the same 40-year-old
Oh, I never
fanboys.
told you this. So this is eons ago. I have to try and find you the screen cap. Fuck, I don't even think I have it anymore. So a long time ago, there was um there was this video game thing that Star Wars was doing. It was very kiddie, and I tweeted at the official page for this thing where I'm like, "Really, guys? Another kiddie game? Come on, you guys serious?" Like, And the official verified Twitter page actually tweeted out back at me, politely telling me to shut the fuck up. And they said something along the lines of, "Oh yeah, of course. I mean, the parents who are fans now get to enjoy it with their kids who are also going to be fans or might be fans now." It's a
Yeah.
polite way of saying, "Bro, shut up." But of course,
Yeah.
less than 3 years later, the fucking thing shuts down because no one's playing it. Um, it's not like it was when I was a kid or when you were a kid. Like even as early as when I was a kid, because I'm 28 now. Like
Hmm.
like 18 years ago when I was 10, there wasn't that much stuff on TV, or even the internet was in its infancy. There wasn't a lot of series going on. It was either you liked Star Wars or you liked other cartoon shows.
Well, you had Power
You
Rangers,
had Power Rangers,
right?
but what I'm talking about is there wasn't a lot of things in competition with each other. Star Wars is just
Mm.
another thing. But when you were a kid or when I was a kid, Star Wars was the thing.
It was the thing. Like everything else was second fiddle to your Star Wars toys when I was a kid.
Exactly.
Like you, like He-Man Transformers were big. Like your Star Wars figure. Like if you were to rank your toys, everyone's Star Wars figures were the best. Those were the ones you played with the most. Those were the ones you played with your friends. After that, He-Man and Transformers and GI Joes were okay. My parents didn't ever get me GI Joes, but my friends had a bunch of them, But like those were essentially the universes you could play in. They kept trying with other ones, and they never took off. Mask or whatever, like it just never. Sectors, they never really took off. But those were the toys that everybody had: Transformers, GI Joe, Star Wars.
But Star
He-Man.
Wars was mostly the thing. I mean, I had Star Wars
Yeah.
toys. I had a toy lightsaber. I had video games. I had the movies. I had the comics.
Hmm.
Nowadays, nobody's really buying comics. I mean, oh my god. And even the video games are kind of being pushed aside. Back when you were younger, when I was younger, when the Star Wars video came out, you paid attention. Nowadays, you got so much other series going on. You got Fortnite, you
Mm.
got Call of Duty, you got other stuff going on. It's not Star Wars is not the thing to watch out for. It's just one of the things. Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
Saturated market, right. But it's impressive that Disney Plus, which I did not think was going to make it, because I was just like, oh, we already have Netflix, we already have Hulu, we already have HBO, we already have Amazon Prime. We want another one of these streaming services to offer like every Disney movie, like okay. And then they pulled The Mandalorian, and then they pulled that Hamilton thing, which worked. Like so many people signed up for Disney to watch Hamilton. And now they've got Mando season 2 coming. I mean, it's working. Like I was proved wrong. Like they seem to be doing okay. But it's amazing that it's kind of amazing that this not so like an okay series can like keep an entire channel afloat. Like it was different when it was Game of Thrones keeping HBO afloat. Like Game of Thrones was enormous. Everyone had to watch it. Mando, people are signing up for Disney to see Mandalorian, but it's nothing to get hyped about. It's okay.
Mandalorian was keeping the doors, in check until the other shows could come out. Because there's a lot of Marvel stuff now incoming as well. Because I really want to see WandaVision.
Yeah,
That looks cool.
WandaVision and the Winter Soldier
Winter
series, or
Soldier.
is that? Yeah.
Well, Preston, our Mando discussion turned into a discussion about Star Wars in general, which is always
I know, I know. Well, do you think Boba Fett's showing up this season? You think it's just going to be another guy with the armor?
from what
Like you don't
from
go.
the rumors about the canon that I keep seeing on Twitter. That's the main rumor. It's not him.
But that would just be such a letdown. That'd be such a letdown if Boba Fett doesn't freaking show up. They keep going to freaking Tatooine. It's about Mandalorians. Boba Fett, Boba Fett's got to show up eventually. Maybe they're going to save him for season 3, but he's got to show up eventually, right?
I would assume so. Yeah. I at one point, I'm actually curious to see if they're going to introduce Ahsoka, who's supposed to be played by Rosario Dawson Or what they're going to do with Cara Dune's character going forward, because both actresses are in kind of hot water right now.
Oh, really? What happened?
Well,
What happened with Cara Dune?
Gina Carano, who plays Cara Dune, I guess she's in hot water because some people may have perceived some of her comments as transphobic.
Ah,
Yeah, and then Rosario Dawson is being labeled a homophobe, so we'll have to.
Rosario Dawson is labeled a homophobe.
Yeah, because
That doesn't sound like Rosario Dawson.
apparently she beat up one of her family members who was gay or something like that. I don't. We just have to see what Disney does with that, because ugh.
Well, I mean, aren't they kind of like once bitten, twice shy with like jumping to conclusions after the situation with those right wing trolls brought down Guardians of the Galaxy?
James Gunn.
You know what I'm talking? Yeah, the right wing trolls that pretended to be offended at James Gunn and got him fired from Guardians 3. And then they realized that people didn't really care that much, and so they want to hire him back. But he was already scheduled now with the redo of Suicide Squad, and so now Guardians is delayed for years. So I don't know if they're going to jump to conclusions like they did with James Gunn. I think maybe those days are over.
Hopefully, we can only hope. And
Because, I mean, people are getting more savvy. They realize that these freaking trolls are all over the place, and people have also realized that, you don't necessarily have to apologize anymore. Lots of people have stopped apologizing after saying horrible, horrible things. So.
it's not like J.K. Rowling. Let's be clear. Right?
No, no. I mean, J.K. Rowling has really gone well above and beyond to be transphobic. Like let's. I mean, we're gonna call a spade there. Like, J.K. Rowling is just needed to stop. But like, I don't know what I mean. I mean,
I'm probably like not
it's
really
tough.
fully aware of the controversy, but that's the basic gist of what I got. I really don't care about the whole pronoun thing. It doesn't. It's do whatever.
Yeah, I mean, I think with most, like, look, I'll call people whatever they want to be called, as long as people also recognize that I'm gonna make a mistake maybe, and it's like sorry if I make a mistake, I'll apologize for making a mistake, but as long as that situation's in place, like, everything's fine.
That
Now,
sounds reasonable.
if somebody says something like I prefer to be called this and this, and I decide to make a joke and mock that person, like, that's that's a different situation, like, but we'll see.
Preston, thank you for joining me on this discussion of the Mando slash Star Wars in general. We went on for so long. I didn't realize we were going
Oh
to go for
yeah,
so long. I'm so
we
sorry.
barely talked about the trailer.
Trailer was cool. Can't wait. It comes out on my birthday, so let's
That's right.
cover it. Let's cover it as soon as it comes out. And guys, thank you so much for watching. And before you ask, we are going to do Witcher. All right. See you guys next time. Have a good
Bye.
one.